Well, welcome on the podcast. It's good to kind of return the favor seems like a weird thing to say, but return the roles. We'll say return the roles. I was on yours last week, and it's good to have you over here today.
And that was fun. That was a really good time. That helped me out a lot. I got off the phone and I was like, we talked about 300. We made fun of our wives. Like, this was awesome. It's like, this couldn't have been any better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to kind of let the guests do their own introduction, really. So give us the elevator pitch about you and who you are.
Elevator pitch it's actually Lobow.
It's Lobow.
Yes, I know it's spelled weird or whatnot, but so Lobow S.P.A.R.K kind of came up about 15 years ago when I got a full-time job, and I was trying to, create something in substitute of my degree that I did not have in order to maintain that. And S.P.A.R.K is what I came up with. I sat up at night and wrote out all my best qualities and then said, you got to limit this to 5 and just do these 5 things every single day. And it should replace the lack of the degree, all those other things. And S.P.A.R.K is actually an acronym for speed, passion, attitude, reliability, and knowledge. Nice. And I follow those 5 things in order every single day.
Amazing. So before that, what was it that led you to that moment?
Well, I woke up in college not doing well, and slightly hungover. And
isn't that college?
Yeah, but most people, they're really hungover and then they're still passing. Right. This was not that. I really looked at my life and I was like, what am I doing? Like, what can I do to be a productive member of society? This is ridiculous. I'm too smart not to be good at something. Like, what is this? And in the back of my mind, I went through the things that I love the most. And I thought, football. I really like this football team. You know what? I bet if I worked for this football team that I would be really, really good at it because I'd love it. So I went straight up to the stadium, asked, no, couldn't volunteer or anything. Finally, I got let in the door. And that was the night after my first day of volunteering, doing running cables and whatnot. Sat up that night and came up with the 5 things that I would need to do every single day to keep this job for, to make it a career my whole life. Not a lot of ADHD people maintain the same profession for 15, 17 years. And right now I'm on year 17 since I volunteered. And it's because I'm never going to lose the love for that team. And just like with any other job, there's BS work that goes into it and whatnot. But it was something to where, I knew I could be good at it if I believed in the brand behind it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how the, S.P.A.R.K thing came up. And then just recently, I've gotten to the point in my profession that I've got a lot of people that work for me that handle a lot of things. And I now had the time to give back and, show people with ADHD that, like, look, you don't have to follow S.P.A.R.K. That might not work for you, but this strategy worked for me. Why not create a strategy that works for yourself? And that could be highly beneficial in my opinion. And so I decided, why not a podcast? And a lot of my friends suggested it, said, you've got a great voice. You convince our group of friends to do, to do anything, even if we don't agree with you. So why don't you try this? And I said, okay. And plugged in the headphones and started talking. And that was like 4 months ago, and decided I'd start reaching out to people, join social media against my will. But I can't say that it wasn't a good idea because it led me to, I would never have met you. I would never have met some of those other amazing people I've spoken. Yeah. And I already consider it a success because I just wanted to help one person.
Yeah.
And so it's successful. Now it's just how many more can get that jolt.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we've got an acronym, and we've got ADHD is not an acronym, is it? Because it doesn't spell anything. But we've got an acronym and we've got an abbreviation, and the abbreviation came first. What was before all of that happened? What was kind of your particular brand of ADHD? How did it impact you in your daily life?
Hyperactive, a little bit. So if I get up and start pacing, I apologize. But it's I was diagnosed really, really young. And that was because I had extremely supportive parents that knew and took me to the doctor, made sure that I had, every advantage that I possibly could. And that was, that is the reason that I ended up, doing really well, is because of that. And it wasn't like, they never gave me here's a handout or here's this. They just supported me. It was an emotional thing. It wasn't a financial or physical. It was a emotional. It was, we are your parents and we are supporting you through this no matter what. And that was massive. Mm-hmm. So, but I not going to lie. I was the rebel in school, and I did not do well in school. And for some reason, it never got to me that I wasn't doing well. I never really cared about doing well in school because, I thought about it actually after a party one night in high school. It was awesome. And I was doing impersonations all over the place and people were laughing and having a good time. I woke up the next morning and I said, oh shit, I missed that test. But then again, thinking about that, I'm like, I will never remember that test no matter what. Whether I made an A or an F is not going to matter in 30 years. But I will for damn sure remember this party and the friends that I had there and the experience of it that I still have to this day. So what was the,
So what was it? What were the sort of first signs that your parents noticed? Have they ever told you about that? Or
I've asked briefly, but, they're both very, very smart and they could tell that something wasn't quite right with my movements. They were just way too fast, way too quick. Even as when I first started to walk, it was go pick up this picture frame and then go over here and pick this. They could, it was just not right, basically, is I guess how they would explain it. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know too much about that, but that's kind of where I was.
Yeah. So what were kind of, I know now that from a lot of your content, it's like you like to talk about the benefits and like the things that ADHD is actually given to you. But
right.
During that period, because what I'd love to kind of maybe get into is, especially, I think it's fantastic that yours was noticed at such a young age. And I imagine right now when you're doing things like the podcast, that is more aimed at people that, for example, are finding out in their 20s or 30s or 40s. And now it's okay. Now that I've had, if you're in your 30s, you've had, 20-ish years of practice of living the way that you are. And right. I like to kind of analogize it with things like movement or sports or a language, as if you've practiced something a certain way, if you've practiced a certain position in football, you know how to play that position very, very well. Right. You understand the whole game, but you know that position intimately. And if you were to be moved into a different position, and often when you wouldn't do so well. And often it's like, okay, if someone's practiced, like when we talked, I said, I didn't have a diagnosis. So as a result, right. I just thought, I've got some shit to deal with. I'm gonna, and I found ways to kind of deal with most, definitely not all, but some of that shit. Right. What were some of the things that you struggled with as a kid, and sort of what, having the diagnosis that early, like what sort of adaptations or accommodations could be made for that? So if someone's listening now and they've got a child right. with ADHD, they can maybe get in there a little bit early, like your parents did.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the biggest struggle that is still a struggle to this day, from early childhood through today, is not being able to convey what it feels like to someone that doesn't have it. It's basically helping them to understand is almost impossible.
Yeah.
And that is by far, in my opinion, the hardest part, which leads you to those negative down days and those, because people don't forgive you for making impulsive decisions very easily. People don't forgive that kind of stuff. And it's hard for you to be able to explain, like, hey, I don't know necessarily what led me to that. I can try to tell you what's going on in my head, but you either believe in mental health or you do not. And that to me has been the hardest part, still is.
Yeah, no, I know. I'd completely agree. Like, you and I had never spoken before last Friday. Right. And then we chatted for like an hour and 20 minutes. And then we were like, "Oh my god, I do that too!" Like there was just so, like, the paper plates idea is just genius.
Wait, I mean, you have to. Your wife goes out of town, you buy paper plates, and you throw them away. You do not use the dishes because you're going to do it wrong.
So, and one other thing that I've, like, this last week, I've been doing a few more kind of neurodivergent TikToks rather than mental health TikToks, because I'm doing a little experiment on TikTok at the minute. It's like, what happens if I don't use the word mental health for a few weeks? Because I've been putting mental health content up since January, and it's gone nowhere. And basically someone said to me the other day that mental health as a hashtag and the words are actually kind of marked down. So sometimes you'll see people spell mental health with a 3 instead of an E. And it's like, great, trying to put good content out for people.
Oh my goodness!
And the reason being because medical misinformation and such. But the neurodiverse stuff doesn't seem to have the same level of things. So I've been putting kind of who has this 2 stuff out this last week, and one of them being the chairdrobe. The chairdrobe being, you have your wardrobe for clothes that are or your closet. Sorry, I'll go American. You have your closet.
Your closet.
You have your closet.
Your closet.
So I forgot for a minute. I forgot I wasn't talking to an Englishman.
Well, I mean, if you want to go there, we can do that a little bit here. Okay, I've tried to put a spot on it, but
that's actually not so bad. Yeah,
I know. I thought it was all right.
It's very, a tiny bit Aussie at the end
Australian,
on the
yeah, you notice that Australia at the end, absolutely.
Oh yeah, and definitely we don't want to go into Australia because there's a guy called Devil in my chat right now. Who basically he likes to get through. He likes to get through a stream without. He's Australian. He likes to get through a stream without me doing an Australian accent, and he only ever gets that on Saturdays. So because the more they object, the more I do it usually.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, so anyway, you have your closet for your clean clothes, and then again, I'm going to go American. Your laundry hamper for your dirty clothes, right? But what about I've worn it once and it's not quite dirty clothes yet. So, I have a chair. I have a chair.
You have a chair.
I have a chair for that, because obviously closet for us is wardrobe, so that's called my chairdrobe. If you just throw it on the floor, that's called a floordrobe.
The chair I'm sitting in has a white shirt that is in that stage.
Well, exactly. And I put this up on TikTok, and oh my god, the responses. And it's just like, mostly neurodivergent. A lot of a few neurotypicals have said, yeah, I do that too. This is just a human thing. Right. But the overwhelming response was, neurodivergent, and I do that. And it's I can't even remember how I got onto this point now, but I was, I think it's just when you kind of trying to explain that to my wife, that's how I got onto this point. I know, because I never even thought of it as a thing, and then it's only because she likes things to be in. She doesn't like clutter. So she doesn't like, as we talked about with the plates last week.
I'm gonna get myself into trouble just laughing at that, but that's good. Keep going.
She doesn't like clutter. So as a result, the chairdrobe is visible, Right. And a few people have said they have like a hamper for it, and I'm like, that's probably a better idea. One person has a rocking course. I was like, that's like next level. But like, then I'm saying, I told her about the chat we'd had, and then I said, just gets it. And I was like, and then I told her, I showed her all these comments on TikTok, and she's just like, no, as if there's more people. And I'm just like, look, you think that the difference is, I accept that your way is a way, my way is a way, and they are both a way. Right? I don't sit there and say my way is right and your way is wrong.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the. I think that's one of the things with neurodivergence is we're much more. We are much more accepting of the idea that there is no one size fits all.
Absolutely.
We are much more accepting of the fact that there's. And this. I think I said this to you last week. Is the fact that as soon as someone says to me, "This is the exact way you have to do it," I'm like, "It could be for all I care." But I'm
right.
like, can't hear you.
You don't like the word should.
I hate the word should. I can't stand the word should.
And so I remember you saying that to me last week. I thought about that actually. And when you say you should do this, that's almost talking down to somebody.
Yep.
And you can say things like, if I were you in your position, I would do this, just if you're asked advice. But saying you should is terrible. Yeah.
Even in that situation, if I was saying that to someone, I'd say, if I were you, I think I'd do this. Because when I started working, when I started working from home the first time, I had a lot of extra time from when I was working in work, and I procrastinated for a lot of it, or I had executive dysfunction for a lot of it. Who knows? And I just sit around and do nothing a lot of time. And my wife was just like, if I did this, if I had that time off work, I'd do all of these things. I'm like, no, you don't. You wouldn't. You think you would. You think you'd do it. Because I thought that, like I said to you last week, I was like, if I always have these creative spells when I'm busy, and then when I get the time to work on them, I'm like, oh, as soon as I get time to work on them, and then as soon as I get time to work on them, it's like,
It's because there's no pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no pressure to do it right then. When you're working and you're scrambling and you're doing all those things, your brain is saying, oh, here's a great idea. It's functioning at optimal level. Yeah. I mean, you've got to be busy and under the gun to produce the best if you're neurodivergent, in my opinion. Just in my opinion, because when you've got all the time in the world, you don't do anything with that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried to explain this to a lot of my audience in the fact that I think pressure is important. And the problem is most neurodivergents and even neurotypicals that get to the point of burnout, what happens is they have so much pressure put on them that they burn out, or they, like a tire with too much pressure, they explode. They have a breakdown, and then they end up taking and then when that happens, instead of taking like a small vacation or whatever it might be, just a little bit of time off work or whatever, I'm throwing in the towel, I'm quitting the job, I'm going to zero.
That's the impulse.
At first, that kind of feels good. But then the problem is, if you leave it for too long without any pressure on you, now you suddenly start feeling flat. It's like, I think pressure is the perfect example for it, because too much pressure explodes a tire. Not enough. You can't run a car on a flat tire. You can for a short amount of time, but you can't. If you want to keep those wheels, it's like it's not happening. And I think it is. It's absolutely massive. And there was another sort of 4 letters that I saw on a TikTok at one point that was said, if it needs to be urgent, important, interesting, and I can't remember. There was 4. Novel. And so there was novelty. Novelty, so if something's novelty, challenging, important, and there's a deadline for it. So any of those 4 things, if sending an email to say that you don't want any milk for the next 2 weeks, is only becomes important the second before the milk delivery happens.
Oh, absolutely. You wait till the last second because it feels better.
Yeah.
Your brain functions better at that last second.
What I'd really love to do is love to jump into each of those letters on S.P.A.R.K.
Okay.
And have you let us know sort of why each of those values is important, and sort of give us an example. Give us an example of where each one of them has done. So let's see if I remember this. S was speed, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Very good.
One for one.
1 for 1.
I don't think. So, I reckon I'll get I'm going to get at least 2 because I remember K was knowledge. But anyway.
I love it.
So, I've also dropped my fidgety thing, which is an issue.
Yeah, anyway. So I've got my piece of paper that I'm fidgeting with, and my drink over here. So we're all good with the fidget stuff. But so speed, in my opinion, speed puts you ahead of the game very, very quickly. So every single day, if you start fast and you're ahead at what you're doing, if you go through a down period, you're still farther ahead than most other people. So it's okay when you have those down times that neurodiverse people always have, which is they go so hard and then they've got nothing left. That's okay, because you're so hard for that amount of time is better than, don't take that in a dirty way, is better.
I already did.
I knew you were going to. But if you go fast at first, you're going to be put ahead. You're going to get ahead. And that is something that I think starting fast every day is the most important thing. I mean, what possible aspect of life, of course, for your dirty aspect of the show, I mean, what aspect of life, aside from sex, is speed not revered? I mean, what does your boss ever tell you? Like, God, I'm so glad you waited so long to get me that. I'm so glad that you waited a whole day to get back to this customer, and while you're at it, why don't you just wait till tomorrow or the next day or whatever? Speed is revered in everything but people with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're too spastic.
Yeah.
If you don't have ADHD and you're fast, you're loved for that. But if you have ADHD and you're too fast, then you're too fast. Yeah.
Same with bipolar, is people worry when I get
right.
Too high, too elevated, which actually is fair, because
right.
But it's fair sometimes, not always. I'm perfectly safe most of the time, but sometimes, yeah, I've been carried away more than once or twice in my life. So friends will be like, "What the hell are you on?" And I'm like, "Nothing." like, can we get some of what you've got? I'm like, I think it's a birth defect.
Yeah. But it's like exactly just your brain doing it. But so that is why the first element in order is speed. I want to wake up, get in the shower fast, get out of the shower fast, get on the road to work fast, early. I want to be ahead when I start.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
And so
was there more to say on speed?
Say again?
I felt like I cut you off there. Was there more you were going to say on speed?
No. I guess the only thing is I want to be ahead in the day when everyone else is just starting theirs.
Yeah.
That's why the speed aspect of it is the first thing.
Okay. Awesome. So, right. P. There's a lot of ways it could be. Performance, power, perfectionism. No, it was none of those.
Passion.
Passion. Yeah. Oh.
I mean, how could you of all people forget passion? I mean, my God, every day you're talking about passion.
Do you know my original podcast before? It's now called the Mindset by Dave podcast, just so people can find it easier. Before that, it was called Master the Mind, Master Anything. But its original name, and that's why if its Android version is still ypop.podbean.com, so YPOP, which stood for Your Progress is Our Passion. So passion's a very important word to me. I remember describing you to somebody this week as like, oh my God, he's just so passionate about this stuff and it's great. So yeah, should have been obvious, right? I'm 1 for 2 now. So
well, no. You're actually, because you got the knowledge part a second ago. So
I'm 2 for 3.
So right. So you started out 2-0. You're fine. It's 2-1 now. You're good.
I really can't remember what A and R were though. Accuracy.
So
I'm reaching.
So passion, basically, that is what I use to maintain speed when I get tired.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
When I start to go really, really fast at something and I'm ahead, ultimately I'm going to get tired. Around 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. I mean, it's going to happen each day.
To give context on that, what time do you start your day?
About 4:30 a.m., 5 a.m.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you said getting ahead of things, but you didn't. I know you said to me last week what time it was, but for the rest of the audience,
I mean, but even if I woke up at 11 a.m., I would still want to be fast to start, no matter what, no matter when you start. But you get tired. When you're going that fast, you get tired. And a lot of people with ADHD that are hyperactive like I am get exhausted. We're constantly walking, moving, thinking, we're exhausted. So passion is what I use to maintain speed. So when I start to slow down, I start thinking about why I love a particular thing that I'm doing, or if I don't love the particular thing I'm doing, who do I love that gets the benefits of doing what I'm doing? Yeah. So it's not just what you're doing, it's the reasons why.
Yeah.
And that speeds me back up.
Mm-hmm. Do you have like a particular example of where you've used that?
Absolutely. So about, I would say 14 years ago, it was, I might get in trouble for saying this, but so when I first started working in sports, women's basketball was an event that I had to work. There are 20 of those games, home games. I personally am not the biggest, fan of that sport, but I had to basically create an environment to where, and I would get exhausted because the same amount of work that goes into women's basketball goes into football. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. It's just a personal preference of what sport you like and what you don't. So when I first started and I had to work sports I didn't necessarily like to watch as much, it basically, that made me really, really, really tired. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, I'm doing the exact same thing. So I couldn't do it as fast. But then I thought, you know what? I've got to do this in order to get back to being fast for the stuff that I really do love.
Yeah.
For the sports that I really do love. And that turned the sport that I didn't like into a sport that I loved.
Yeah.
It kept the playing field even, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you and I have kind of come around a lot of the same issues, because there's an expression I use for that, which is kind of to do in, I only told someone from my community this morning that I try and avoid admin wherever possible, because admin's just boring. But but right. I'm an ideas person. I like making videos. I bloody love being the center of attention. But basically, there's a lot of behind the scenes grunt work and boring stuff that goes into all that, and the expression I use for that, and actually I think I might start using the idea of passion. This is important because this is a foundation for what you're actually passionate about. But the expression I use is, in order to do the things that you want to do, you have to do the things that you need to do.
Well, exactly. And you have kids, right? So all that bullshit crap that you have to do is not for you and your show, it's for them.
Yeah. I thought you meant all the bullshit crap I have to do for them.
Oh no!
I'm like, preach.
No, my wife and I don't have kids, so I can't put myself in that situation. But I will say that a lot of the, sometimes it's not passion for what I do; it's why I'm doing it. Yeah, and that would be my wife, my parents, whoever it may be. It's, I gotta be, I love this because I love them.
Yeah.
So it makes the bullshit a lot easier when you say I'm doing this for them, not for.
Yeah, 100%. That was what it took to get me started. Absolutely, right. Because whatever, I know neurodiversity and low self-esteem tend to go kind of hand in hand, unless, I don't know if it was the same for you, because obviously you said it was found early and you had all that support, but for me, I was obviously just brought up being the different one.
Yeah, now I've always been made fun of, right? But what I like to do is I love to make fun of myself.
Me too.
And a lot of people that don't. A lot of people tell me, why are you doing that? We don't like it when you do that. Mm-hmm. Well, I love it when I do that, because when you make fun of yourself, it portrays confidence to other people. And I think that that's really important, is when you mess up or you do something really, really stupid, make fun of yourself for it. Because all of a sudden other people are going to start laughing and be like, gosh, if he could make fun of himself for that, I want to be around that person. Yeah. Because they're confident enough to publicize their mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me, it was a completely different reason. It was more like if I make fun of myself, I get in there first. You know, kind of a little bit Eminem at the end of 8 Mile,
Yeah.
kind of like, you know, what are you going to throw? What are you going to throw at me now? Because I've just shown you all my weaknesses and stuff.
Why don't you tell them something that they don't know about me?
Exactly. Sort of makes you invulnerable, you know. But yeah, when I first like started on that self-esteem, like on that sort of self-development journey, I know this is a bit we didn't get into with your pod when I spoke to you last week. Like I'd just, you know, it's coming up to, in a few weeks, it'll be 12 years since I basically tried to take my own life. And then I came back I thought I was an absolutely useless dad. I felt I had nothing left to give the world. And I was watching this film called The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, and there's a line in it. The guy's got Lou Gehrig's disease, locked-in syndrome, and it's a true story. And he managed to write a book by blinking to the nurse. Like they blink and then that translates to letters. And he's watching his kids on the beach. He can't play with them, can't interact with them. He's in the wheelchair. He's strapped up to all the machines. And he said the line, even a shadow, even a sliver of a dad is still a dad. And I was just like, well... like I just cried for about 4 weeks, but for completely different reasons. And then I was like, right, you know what? I may only be a sliver of a dad, but a sliver of a dad is the seed of whatever is to come from like later on from that. And it was before I now do. I'd love to sit here and be all virtuous and say, yes, I do everything for my loved ones. It's like I do. But the thing, but what you just said before is right. I look after me first so that I'm able to look after them. And that's what it took for me to be able to, look after myself. I was so bad at looking after myself. So bad.
Yeah. And that's, I hate hearing that. And I do have to bring up, you know, I usually save this for other times or maybe the end or whatnot. But another big reason for starting the podcast was that one of my good friends and my wife's best friend died of mental illness 2 years ago. And,
I'm so sorry.
And basically, you know what I mean by that. There's no easy, you know, and I am confident that if she had been able to come on a Zoom call, or what, I mean, she and I spoke constantly. For some reason, I was one of the few people that she would talk to about it. I don't know whether it was the positive takes or whatever, but she was so far mentally, you know, I mean, ADHD wasn't the thing, you know, she had that, but it wasn't, there were a lot of, you know, other things going on. But I think that, you know, every psychiatrist she went to it was so negative, and it was so, this is so bad, and this is so dangerous, you know, this is so whatever. I feel like if everybody could increase how good a friend they are to the next person, psychiatrists, I mean, yeah, you're going to need them. Obviously, there are some really, really good ones, but you take away a lot of the paying a lot of money for psychiatrists that are not so positive in people's lives.
Yeah.
And that do misdiag. I think that we need to go into these communities like the one that you have and help each other more first. Because it's easier to talk about something, you know, to someone where you understand what their brain is going through.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
You know, than someone that might prescribe you medicine but has never walked in that, has never been there.
Mm.
You know, they did well in school. They have a degree. They can write a script. But are they neurodiverse? Have they ever felt what it feels like to not be able to explain yourself? To not be able to convey what you're feeling? And then they ask you, so how are you feeling?
Fine.
Right. And so half the reason for this, a lot of the reason for this is because I made a promise to her when she was still alive that I would always help, always. Yeah. And that's why we're still doing this. So amazing. We love you.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry for your loss as well. Okay. What was A?
So
accuracy?
Attitude. So
speed, positive, passion. My God, speed, passion.
I mean, come on, Dave. What's your 1 to 5 today? What are
I'm about a 4 actually. I'm okay.
You're a 4? Okay. Hell yeah.
I'm pretty good.
You're actually higher than me, I think, today. It's been a rough week.
It's a miracle I am. I was unreasonably grumpy and angry about things earlier today.
Really?
It came completely out of the blue. It's not. I'm more of a get depressed kind of guy. You know, I'm not like angry and irritable. So I don't really know what to do with angry and irritable. So I was like, oh, like just getting annoyed by everything, and like drivers and
shit. I'm sorry for sending you so many emails.
You only sent me one. It's fine.
I said, I was like, oh god, he hadn't sent me a Zoom meeting. Of course, the ADHD's like, this better happen today.
It's fine. I need reminders anyway, so it's good. Attitude.
See, this is the problem with ADHD, the tangents.
This is not the problem.
Not the problem.
This is the magic of ADHD.
The magic, yeah. The magic of a 4-hour thing that was supposed to last 1 hour. But yeah.
I love it. I don't know what the audience think, but
right, exactly. But
but I enjoy it.
So the attitude part, that is basically what I use. So you got speed first. When you get too tired, you use passion to jump, to basically get your speed back to where it needs to be. When you're passionate and your emotions are going crazy, you get overloaded. You're too emotional. You're too wound up. You have to use a steadfast, no bullshit attitude to govern your passion. ADHD is right in the middle. Attitude is right in the middle of S.P.A.R.K. It will make or break it. It either jumpstarts your heart back to life so that you can be faster, or it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing with attitude that I have found is exercise. The only way that I can get a steadfast, focused attitude to get my heart back in it is to exercise. That is the only way that I have found that it works. So there are some days that I will be at work and I'm not fast. My heart is not in it. And I drive 30 minutes home and chop firewood for an hour and drive back. Because I've got to get that thing going. Mm-hmm. I've got to get my attitude refocused. And the only thing that refocuses it is exercise.
Yeah, that's amazing that you do that and know that. I guess for me, it's like my exercise is the start of the day, and it's non-negotiable. During COVID, it was horrendous because as I said to you, it's like I couldn't get into the home workouts because basically, I'll stop on a set when I'll finish a set when I'm in the gym, and I'll have a couple of minutes before my next set, and then my mind will then start wandering to all the things I need to do, but I'm 20 minutes away from home, so it's fine. But whereas if it was at home, it'd be like, oh, my mind's just wandered to something I need to do. I'm going to go and do that. And then I'll do 47 other things, and then I'll remember that I was in the middle of exercising. And but it's I think I've more rough than usual year last year, and in the last couple of months I think things have been a little bit more even again, and I think it's down to the fact that the gyms have reopened in the UK, so we've got that back and having that sort of discipline there. But huge. I think the idea of things aren't going the way I want them, I'm going to go and exercise, and then that gives me the opportunity to kind of reset. That's kind of like extremely amazing to me because if things aren't going the way that I want them, it refocuses
your brain. I mean, it does. Like the way ADHD works in a lot of neurodiverse things is exercise gives us. It's like taking medicine. Yeah. And I'm also medicated, but by the same token, I mean that is it for people that aren't. Exercise can give you that what you need. It really can. And that's, there's no set time to me in terms of the chopping firewood every day. There's no set time. It's when I have to do it.
Yeah.
It's when my heart is not in it. I've got to get out there now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really important, obviously to really highlight the fact that your exercise is chopping firewood. Mine is being in the gym or going for a run. Right. And it's like when people say exercise, we kind of see a very kind of narrow, well, basically what I do. It's like, that's what people see as exercise. But I call it, to a lot of people that I speak to, I just call it movement, you know. It's like, because it's about moving yourself. And it's about, you know, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be in a gym. Yeah, it doesn't have to be in a gym. It doesn't have to be going for a run. It doesn't have to be chopping firewood. It could be yoga for somebody. It could be gardening for somebody else. You know, it could be just being active.
It has to be for you. It has to be something and the only reason it's firewood, you know, chopping firewood for me is because the next door neighbor about 10 years ago had a tree fall. And this is talk about ADHD moment here. So the tree falls, you know, across onto our property, and I'm like, well, I live out in the country. There's not really a gym, and I need to get in shape. I'm gonna go buy an axe. So I bought an axe, and the first swing, I'll never forget it. I mean, I saw the wood chip. I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. I've done it
once, and I love it.
It's unbelievable. So not only that, but so then all of a sudden the property got too small for the firewood because I chopped so much over so many years. It was like, what are we, you know, but it was seasoned and everything. It turned into a side business. So I started selling it. So this is what ADHD can do. A fallen oak tree turns into paid to exercise.
If a tree falls in the woods and no one is around to chop it up with an axe, then
doesn't really fall. Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious.
Amazing. So that's attitude, right? Responsibility.
Nope. Close. Very close. Reliability.
Oh, it was close, right? So I got 2 for 5 in the end. That'll do.
Reliability, and I'm going to get people are going to argue about this forever, but I would argue that ADHD and neurodiverse people are the most reliable people on Earth to things.
Go on.
That matter.
Okay.
Not to the bullshit stuff, but to things that matter, we're reliable. So if my attitude, even after exercising, even after all those kind of things, is not where it needs to be, I increase my reliability to other people instantly. As in, I call those friends that I haven't talked to in a while, and I, you know, go and help. So, you know, somebody that I know really, really needs it at that time. And it's not because I don't care about them that I didn't do it before, but it's your reliability to other people will put you in a state to get that energy back to go exercise. If you think about it, when you're reliable to another person, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, good.
It makes you feel awesome. As
long as there's not too many of them.
Right. I mean, honestly, if helping someone else and being reliable to someone else makes you feel bad, then it's possible you're just not a good person, and there's nothing that we can. I mean,
I don't know anybody that helping someone else makes them feel bad.
Exactly.
What I would say, and I know I use this phrase to you, is there's the devil's in the dose. So I do know people.
Exactly.
I do know people that even the gym. And I'm going to compare both the gym and helping people here, right? So when I first found the gym, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. I feel great. And that was when I was training like 2 times a week. So your brain goes, oh, if I feel this good of doing this 2 times a week, imagine what happens if I do it 5 times a week. And then you go, imagine what happens if I do it 7 times a week. And then you start hating rest days. It's like, oh my God, I've got to take a rest day. And then eventually it's like, I'm going to double train and blah, blah, blah. Because I honestly did more is more. I mean, I've probably got ADHD. We still don't know, but I have a very obsessive personality. So I started double training most days. Obviously, I burnt out far too much. And, there's an expression I use now, which is if you want to have your best days, you can't neglect your rest days. And it's...
oh, absolutely. That's a great statement.
And so I haven't taken one yet this week, and I'm training again tomorrow, so don't tell anybody. I'll take one on like Wednesday. Oh no, my Muay Thai instructor's off this week, so I'll take one on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. But this is the thing is like this, and this I found the same with helping people. So I came back from that period of utter depression, and then I sort of lingered around in self-help for a little while, and then that's when I became a personal trainer. And as soon as I became a personal trainer, I loved it, and I was helping people. And I'd throw out free sessions here and there. I did this thing called a life a day, where I helped a person a day every day for over 1,000 days. For free. So that was personal training sometimes, but it was also calls. And again, I found out from that the devil was in the dose as well, because it's like, if I help someone, it makes me feel better, and this is great, and and it goes back to kind of that's my passion, and that gives me my energy back, right? So because I did one a day, I didn't do it every single day. I'd do like 10 in one day and then none for a little while, and the first year I basically just did them as and when they came in. So there was a day that I did 14 of them. Like this is 14 consecutive phone calls over the course of a day. And then I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. And I was for a bit until I neglected my rest days with that too. And it's like, okay, then this is the whole thing where a person goes from obliger into something called obliger rebellion. It's like there are too many people now are asking me for stuff, and I just want to be like, fuck this shit, I'm out. You know?
That's a great. I love that, by the way.
But other than that, I am a very, very reliable person. I do beat myself up when I'm not able to be.
So I also want people that are listening to understand that I know that I speak in an all or nothing tone. Like it's got to be brutal exercise, and you have to be reliable 1,000% of the time. That's not how I'm trying to convey this. All I'm saying is this is what I use that works. It would be horrible for some people to go about their strategy this way. But if you figure out something like this that works for you, then that is all that matters.
100%.
It has to work for you. With any neurodivergent person, no matter how extreme anybody else tells you that it is, do not listen to them. Do it your way.
There's a Bruce Lee quote that I absolutely love, which is it's basically take what you like, leave what you don't, and add a bit of your own. And that was kind of how he invented Jeet Kune Do, really, as well. It's like it's an amalgamation of a bunch of different martial arts. He left behind the bits that he didn't like himself. He added a lot of his own stuff to it, and that's there's no such thing as a one size fits all. The internet will try and tell you otherwise, because it's very hard to say. It's very hard to sell somebody on this might work for you. You have to go, this will work for you 100%. And if it doesn't, it's your fault.
Those are the people that they either have perfect 10 looks wise. They're either the Brad Pitt looking guys that get up and say ADHD is so awesome, this is so much fun, and blah blah blah, all that kind of crap, and they get a bunch of views and all that. But that's all the internet. I mean, that's all. This person looks good, so we click on this button and follow. But I mean, who really cares? I mean, if you're really in it to help people, then you're really in it to help people.
Mm-hmm. We're up to K, which is knowledge. Yes. 2 for 5.
So knowledge. Now, this is an interesting one because, again, most neurodivergent people have been told that they're not as smart as the rest because they're not doing well in school or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they might not be smart at school or at something else. But the knowledge aspect of it is basically a reflection. It's reflecting on what you have experienced throughout your life. For me, I learn best when I am absolutely alone outside at 11 p.m., contemplating everything that I've experienced throughout the past day, week, whatever. Because what happens when you do that is we are able to connect dots in a certain way. And when we are able to do that, we can put things together that nobody else can in order to predict things that will happen that nobody else can see yet. And I mean,
Stop seeing me so clearly.
Right. Exactly. I mean, imagine telling a neurotypical person that, hey, by the way, I can predict that you're going to do this in 3 years at this time on this day.
Oh, I can't go quite. I'm not that specific.
But you see what I'm saying. Obviously,
my favorite one is I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'm guessing that you feel this kind of way, and people are like, yeah, how do you know? And it's just like, yeah.
Well, I knew by the way you walked up. I knew by the way you walked up to the table how you felt, because you noticed their eyes, their movements, everything, and it's funny because when you say that to somebody, they're like, no, you don't know anything, blah, 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 because they don't recognize those things that neurodiverse people do. So anyways, the knowledge aspect is the knowledge of people, the knowledge of your experiences. And when you reflect on those experiences, you are learning. That is your classroom.
Yeah.
And knowledge, right? That is your classroom. And when you learn something that you may, when you're reflecting like that, you'll say, oh my goodness, this person, you know what? I got to get my reliability back. And this person, I did not read that right, but I do now. I'm going to call that person. So all of a sudden, now you're reliable to that person, which makes your attitude a little bit better, which makes your heart jump started again. And now you're fast again.
I love it.
And so now knowledge can go one of two ways. Okay.
Go on.
And that's the spark you want to have. When you have speed, passion, attitude, reliability, knowledge, and each element is carrying the other one when it needs to, that's how it's supposed to work. But sparks go out. They are momentary flashes of light.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes your spark does go out. It does. That's when you start researching a new idea or something new to bring to the table. And then you go to bed and you attack it fast, passionately, with attitude, and you try it again. I mean, think about it. You're trying to start a fire. You got a lighter.
No.
Click, 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 click. Oh, wait, it's not working. Not working. A lot of things are not going to work. A lot of things are not going to happen the way that you want them. In a perfect world, you take the lighter, the fire starts. But that's not what happens all the time. And that's kind of how I look at Spark. It works for me.
It's really funny that that's your acronym as well, because I remember early on when I moved from, not even I was still doing personal training, but I was doing the mindset coaching alongside it, and I was like, what do I enjoy the most? And I basically said, there's two things you can do. There's two things you can do as a mindset coach or a motivator or whatever the hell, life coach, whatever. Oh, sorry, that life coach makes me. It's what. Don't tell anyone. It's what my actual qualifications in. Because mindset coach it's a made up term. Shh, don't tell anybody. Anyone can be a mindset coach. You just need to have a coaching qualification in order to have insurance. So that's I've got that. I've got a personal training. I've got a nutrition coach qualification. I've got a mental health first aider and mental health educator. I've got loads of them now, but my initial one was in life coaching. I just could never. It was life coaching by Dave. Sorry, I just need to shake that off. But I was like, right, basically, you've got two jobs, haven't you? Two. That's it. Simple. Two. You're either the spark or you're the fuel. The spark starts someone off, the fuel keeps them going. And I was like, oh, and I remember, and through those 1,000 plus calls, I used to love being the one where I'd just get a person going from, I don't think I can do anything. I can't figure out what to do, blah, blah, blah. And then by the end of the call, they're like, I'm going to do this now. And I still get emails from those people like 3 years, 4 years down the line now saying, one started a treetop yoga retreat in a tree house. It was brilliant.
If you don't mind, I would like to just for 3 minutes, because I know that I can go off on tangents and that it might not be as clear to other people as it is to me, since I've been doing it for so long. But let me read you these real quick.
Okay.
Over again. Speed. This will set the tone for you and others around you. Always begin with a fast pace. Quickness puts you ahead of the game while others procrastinate. There needs to be a sense of urgency with everything you do every day. And with neurodiverse people, there is. We have that. There is always a sense of urgency with something. However, keeping up a fast tempo the entire course of a day or project is difficult, and your body and mind will tire. When you tire and start to feel weak, rely on the passion for what you do or why you are doing it. Passion will maintain your speed if you tire. If your passion for something starts to fade, even when you've given all of yourself to it, eventually your tired body and exhausted mental state will overcome your heart's passion. When this happens, use a steadfast, focused, no bullshit attitude to govern your passion when you are sensing you're about to burn out. If you feel your attitude is going down a road it shouldn't, and you'll know this, immediately increase your reliability to other people. Being reliable is as easy as being present when you are needed the most. What? Go ahead.
No, keep going. Keep going. Okay. You've got me.
if your reliability to other people begins to slip, it is time to make an adjustment alone by researching and learning something new or different to bring to the table. The knowledge of your job at hand matters in your personal life, will assist your reliability to others if you are unable to be present. None of the other elements will work if you do not have sound knowledge. You need to be alone and free of any distractions when expanding on current knowledge or thinking of a new approach, plan, or structure. True reflection and learning should be done when the task at hand is finished or the day is over. At this time, go to sleep. Grab your drink of choice or go to sleep. Reapproach and wake up by attacking the day with speed, passion, attitude, reliability, and knowledge. If followed correctly, one of the sparks that you create will ignite a fire, and then it's over.
I'm about to explode over it. Like, that's amazing. And the reason it's hitting me so hard, and especially it was when you went to the reliability bit, it's like, that's almost exactly the actual, that's almost the blueprint for how I've done things. And I've never, like, without, like, yeah, I go at things fast and hard, and I go at things passionately, right? Like, and then when things get hard, like when things get hard and that initial momentum kicks off, then it's like, right, remember why you're doing this, remember why you're doing this. And then the attitude thing, yeah, okay, maybe I'm a little bit flaky on the attitude, but when we get to the
that's exercise.
So
yeah,
well, okay,
right.
Okay, okay, well that makes sense, because on the areas where things have really gone sour for me have been when I've forgotten that part, as in I don't have time to look after me, I don't have time for my exercise because I'm not achieving everything I said I was going to. So in that case, the first thing out the window is I'm gonna skip my own exercise, and I think I mentioned that to you last week. But the reliability thing is like, okay, right, who can
that's the one people like the most, is the reliability. It's like,
if I know that I can always help somebody else, but the knowledge one, and again, this one is one that every single time, usually, if like when these dips, or when my spark goes out, or it looks like it's going out, the thing is actually I need to take some time for me, and now instead of feeding my body, I need to feed my mind, because it feeds my mind helping everybody that I help in the chat. It feeds my mind having these type of conversations. But yes, absolutely. Isolated, alone, studying, no other words anywhere, no music with words in.
Right.
I've got a playlist called Electronic Concentration Music.
Yeah, I mean, look at right now. I'm on an upstairs porch in the middle of the woods in a tent with a screen to protect me from the bugs. This is the refuge. Yeah, like, and that's. I feel like some people that have listened to the podcast, and it's season 1 that goes through S.P.A.R.K in detail. There's no guests. It's just literally me saying it. And then in season 2, it's called the ADHD fire, which is how to maintain the fire once you have started. Those are really, really quick, because starting the fire for us, I think, can be, for anybody, can be a little bit difficult. And sometimes we can quit, or get tired of it. But once we have started the fire, we usually, I mean, it's game over a lot of the times when that happens. And I think that the ADHD fire season is basically, there's only 3 things, and that's, you got to have fun with it. You got to surround yourself with the most seasoned firewood you can, i.e. people that have been there before, that you could throw into the fire at any time, that will gladly do it because they can take the heat. You got to have people in your life like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that just, and I think I kind of want to be my hope is that I'm a fire log for somebody else's fire, you know, throw me in.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Is there, before we throw, there's a couple of questions coming in from chat and stuff.
Yeah,
but before we throw it over to there, is there anything else that you think it's important to add?
Gosh, yeah. I mean,
you can take as long as you want. You know, I'm in a really comfy chair.
No. I would like my friend, you know, one of my close friends, and my wife to know that the person that was closest to them that we lost due to mental illness is watching right now, laughing and smiling over this.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that, and thank you for sharing. Honestly, I ain't sleeping tonight. That's for sure. I'm probably going to attack something with speed, passion, attitude, reliability, and knowledge. Like
that's what I'm fucking talking about.
Until Absolutely. Like 3 a.m. I honestly,
hell yeah.
I had the same thing. I had the same thing last week after we spoke. I didn't get to bed until 2. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was just attacking that was just attacking hanging out with my son. It was, but in a much more intense way than it used to.
That was a forced spark.
It was good. It was.
That's
but
awesome.
It's great. It's great to have these type of conversations, and it's also great to. It's great to find people who've have found a system for it. And also what I really appreciate about it is the fact that, you do know that this system there might be someone listening right now that picks this system up and thinks this is absolutely perfect for me. There might be other people out there that just take the S and the P or just take the R and the K or whatever. And the various parts don't work for them. And that's cool. But there's 5 different things there that each one of them could actually potentially help you, and I think that's fantastic. It's like we all make your own recipe from this, try each of those things out. That all five of them bloody resonate with me straight up. And I think, as I said to you last week, is I'm only just kind of beginning to explore the possibilities of a diagnosis and stuff now, but looking back, and the more I speak to other people, the more it's like, oh, there we go. It's like there's my life. That person's just explained my life. That person's just explained my brain.
And it's exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah. Questions.
Blushing Crafter, who I know has already started listening to your podcast. Do you have episodes up already about women in ADHD? Asking because there seems to be specific things that many women experience more differently than men.
Actually, about 70% of the guests I've had on are women that talk about that. Actually, so in seasons 3 and 4 are where you're going to any woman that comes on will talk at some point in the episode about it. And if feel free to just DM me on Twitter or whatever and ask me like where in the episode, and I'll go through it and tell you the time to look and all that. Absolutely. Because it is different for women, especially because women weren't really diagnosed. It depends on your age, but it's kind of the hyper boys syndrome, Yeah. So I understand why that would be a thing, but no, and I'll do an episode on that. You know what? After this season, that's where I'm starting the next season.
Straight after this interview,
straight immediately.
Speed, passion, attitude, because he needs to be reliable.
Right.
Because he's got the knowledge.
That's what I'm talking. I like that. I need a commercial.
You can have the extreme British commercial.
Oh God.
The one where the guy talks like this, like Matt Berry. It's because that's how everyone honestly thinks that we talk.
Right. I'd rather have the Captain Obvious guy from hotels.com.
Captain Obvious? I don't know Captain Obvious.
Oh my God. Google it. It's just
we'll do that in a minute.
But yeah, so
I don't think it's a question, but it's a good point that Lindsay's made, because
Yeah.
actually, again, I used to obviously attribute everything I've experienced to bipolar,
Yeah.
but this has been very refreshing to hear. I resonate with everything that has been said in terms of my bipolar. I feel like the ADHD traits are very similar, but not sure if that's me too or not.
So, sorry.
Have you come across, all I was going to say is, have you come across this, like different neurodivergencies kind of overlapping?
Well, yes, and like all of the time, that seems to it's the comorbidities. Is that right? So I do think that, and this is just a thought. I am not a psychiatrist. Please don't get mad. It is just a thought for me. It is. I think that ADHD might be, if it's untreated and unrespected and unappreciated, I think ADHD very well could possibly be the reason that other comorbidities are allowed to come in.
Yeah, I actually strongly agree with that.
And that, I think ADHD is extremely serious, as much as I think it is. It can be a huge power. I also think that if it's not addressed, and if it's just, have some coffee and some sugar or whatever, ADHD, what is that? What the hell is it? If it's looked at like that, that can cause those comorbidities to come in.
Yeah. There's another streamer I'd really recommend checking out. Is for maybe possibly an intro, another guest for your show. His name is Papa Glitch.
Okay.
So Papa Glitch, I believe it's Papa Glitch _.
Anybody listening to this is very welcome to DM me. If you want to come on Lobow S.P.A.R.K, I'm game. Let's do this. Let's have fun.
Nice. And Chris, his name's Chris. And basically when he and I first met earlier this year, it was like, hello streamer, that is basically me, but with better hair. And it was like, he's got like really thick silver locks. It's beautiful. And basically, like we connected on like so many things. It's like, we both had a massive weight loss, and we both did this, and we both got obsessed with exercise, and we're both bipolar and all the rest of it. And then he's, not to give you too many spoilers in case you do interview him, but basically he's been re-diagnosed this year and said that you don't think it's actually bipolar at all. It was ADHD combined with PTSD, and as a result, the ADHD traits that are already there cause you to have a less than mainstream or obvious predictable life as when you're in school and such, and as a result, the hypersensitivity to emotions kind of kicks in with that. So it's the thing is, I still stand by this. I still stand by the fact that basically one of the main criteria for diagnosing anything is to what extent does this affect your daily life. And the thing is that's probably why I've never been diagnosed, because I found my way through by the time that I even realized any of these things were problems. And the problems for me wasn't the ADHD traits. The problems for me was the emotional regulation of the bipolar. So that's why I only ever spoke to a therapist about that side of it. I never spoke to a therapist, and I never spoke to a therapist about stimming at all. I never spoke to a therapist about kind of being hyper focused on work for a short period of time and then off. And even that was explained by bipolar, because weirdly it was like, when I'm manic, I'm hyper. When I'm depressed, I'm not on. I don't want to do anything. So as a result, ADHD can hide inside of bipolar very, very easily, because essentially the ups and downs of bipolar would totally and utterly mask the ups and downs of ADHD.
Right.
And I'm 100% convinced that there's literally no such thing as neurotypical. Like, it's just
right.
It's it's just we've not found, and this trait doesn't bother you so much that you go and see a therapist over it. Therefore, we've not put a label on it in the DSM yet.
Yeah, and I'm going to get yelled at probably for this comment too at some point. But so ADHD, the whole executive dysfunction. Mm-hmm. I would argue that executive dysfunction is the most functional way to be ultimately successful.
Go on.
When you have executive dysfunction, it's usually towards small things. But the really big things, people are weird. People are different. The ultimate most successful people in life have a screw loose. They do. I mean, when was the last normal person that did the dishes really well and did the laundry well and all that kind of stuff? But when was that person ultimately greatly successful? It's someone that's weird, that's got something edgy about, there's an edge to them.
Yeah.
So to be ultimately successful, I mean, dysfunction is kind of where the bar is here.
I was gonna say, you never hear someone like, you know, some big like end of life story like of yes, I achieved all this greatness by just being extremely consistent and not deviating in the slightest.
Absolutely. And I did the norm and I followed every rule there
I
was.
Worked exactly 9 to 5. I finished at 5. I kissed my wife twice on each cheek. And it's like, you know,
right, exactly.
I slept exactly 8 hours every single day. And then voila, I got my success.
Right.
So I suppose there isn't many, well, if
I'm just trying to give some energy to some people that look at things and get down on themselves, because honestly, this can be so useful if you understand the ultimate end to all of this. I mean, we all pass away, unfortunately. At some point, it's going to happen. Use your weirdness to be, I mean, most people that are weird as shit are also cool and badass at the same time.
I totally resonate. Yeah. I identify as all of those things.
Yeah, but I mean, stay weird.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's only one more question in here, which is it hard to work out if you are in hypersymptomatic? Well, that might be for me, maybe, but is it hard to work out if you're in hypersymptomatic and ADHD, bipolar, or being fast for being the individual? So basically, I think that's saying, is it hard to work out if you're symptomatic or if you just, I'm on it today? Yeah.
It's very hard until I'm reliable to someone else. And then it becomes less difficult.
It's for me. It's become easier to notice the difference, and it's also I never. I used to ruin the highs like by basically going, oh, this is going to come crashing down again, and then after that, I basically took the throttle off and just let them go wherever the hell they went. That was equally as problematic. And now I'm just like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this, but I'm going to try and I'm not going to try and fully suppress it or anything like that, but I'm going to try and keep a little bit of the thing on it. And that's the whole thing is I know I even predict for emotional hangovers when I'm doing certain things. I call it an emotional hangover.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, and like for example, I did last year, and actually, this is me putting this out there, not to be super specific or anything, but how would you like to talk on the 3rd of June next year?
I'm game.
Sweet. Cool. I'll put it at a time that's really convenient for you, because the thing is, because on the 26th of February this year, I did 26 consecutive mental health conversations over 26 hours on the channel.
Holy
so
hell.
I called it the Mental Health Marathon. So it was on the 26th of February, which is 26.2. In UK dates, obviously, it's 2.26 for you. But okay, there you go. So same number of miles as in a marathon, same number of hours as in a stream. Right. And basically, I spoke to 26 different people back to back, and
holy cow!
Yeah, it was fine. You know what? It was easy.
You know what? It was probably the best advice you've ever. Right? It was.
I was interviewing people, so I didn't have to give advice. I've watched it back. Gotcha. I watched it back. I'm a little bit slower than usual. However, everybody was like, "How the hell are you still okay?" And I'm just like, honestly, this is easy. Like this, but what I accounted for is the emotional hangover, which was after I've done something so damn amazing.
You're just depleted, yeah.
And then the physical hangover that came off it.
But that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay, because look at what you did in that one 26-hour period. So like people that get down, like that after they've done something great, and we fluctuate like crazy. It's, we feel great today, we feel awful today.
Yeah.
We feel great, we can't get out of bed. It's okay. It is okay, because your great is like 1,000 times better than the average person's.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the whole thing is like, okay, I might not win every day, but I'm going to win every year.
Right. For me, it's a 7. Each week is 7 days, and it's a 7-game season. My off days, they suck. They're awful. They are, and no one can argue with that. But if I go 5-2, that's a hell of a lot better than 0-7.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it. I've got a lot better at telling myself that as I've got older, and being okay with the fact that there's periods of push and periods of pull. There's a little animated video on my YouTube called "Balance," the seesaw analogy, and I think again this is totally an ADHD thing when I wrote this, and I've explained so basically I've said that most people put balance as a seesaw or a teeter-totter. I'm so good at speaking American, so most people think of balance as like, no, they don't think of it like that. Most people see it balance as the old school justice scales, the ones that are
right.
So you do a tiny bit of work, tiny bit of play, tiny bit of work, tiny bit of play. You have some food and you have some. I've got someone gifting subs left, right, and centre here. I'm in the middle of an interview, but thank you so much. It's like I will come and give you a proper thank you in a minute. I'll explain in a sec. Basically, you can subscribe to a channel. You don't have to. Being a streamer is like busking being a busker on the street. People can come and listen to what you're playing for free, but they can also throw a couple of dollars in your guitar case and a subscription. So that's the best way to describe it, because people go, why would anybody pay for something that they can get for free? It's like the same as you would when you throw some coins in a guitar case when you're walking down the street.
The music's good.
Yeah, exactly. You heard it. Yeah. You've heard it for free. You don't have to pay the person, but you want to because you're showing some appreciation. Right. But yeah, so most people see balance as the scales. You've got to keep it. Don't let it go too far. You want to keep it balanced like this. Whereas I see balance as a teeter-totter, a seesaw. Basically, if you have two people sat on that, just sat there, just kind of like hovering above the ground, like barely moving, who's having fun there?
So basically, you see things at a more elaborate, higher level.
Utilize the push and pull. So this is important because again, if the two people on the seesaw, if one of them goes up and the other one goes down, and they stay there, again, no one's having fun. So if you go all in on work forever and stay there, you burn out. You're not having fun.
Yeah,
even if you go all in on family and you don't have the financial means, because you're not bothering with work, unless you've got some sort of trust fund or whatever. If you go all in on family, and you might think, and people might think that's the best thing to do, it's like, until your house gets taken off you. So it's so it's about. But at the same time, if you were to kind of like, right, I'm going to do an email, and then I'm going to hang out with my kids for 5 minutes, and I'm going to come and do another email. That's the keeping it balanced. It's not going to work. Whereas in reality, it's like, okay, you need that push and you need that pull. So you need to be like, okay, when I'm in work mode. When I'm with my family, I'm in family mode, and I'm not really interrupting these two things for that. And but that was kind of like when I wrote that, I wasn't thinking neurodivergence. I wasn't thinking any of that. I was just thinking about like when I tried to explain balance to anybody that I've spoken to, neurodivergence, neurotypicals, whatever. It was the same sort of thing. They were trying to keep things so balanced that, for example, so in a few weeks, I'm going on another American podcast that doesn't start until 11:30 our time and finishes at 3:30 in the morning, my time, right? And I'll be going up and getting up in the morning and going to training. It's fine. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll.
You probably won't even sleep because you'll be juiced up after the podcast, and it'll just flow right into the workout. You'll probably work out better than you ever have. Then you'll crash, but it's okay.
Exactly, because I've accounted for that. Now, but it wouldn't be okay if that was my every Monday. So it's about having these. It's about having these periods and being mindful. Okay, I'm choosing to push harder right now. I'm choosing to go with more speed right now. I'm choosing, whatever it might be, and being. Learning yourself, learning where you can push and pull, and fucking it up sometimes just for good measure.
That's the biggest. That is the biggest thing, is not letting the loss days, the days where you're not doing so well, not letting those losses pile up. Yeah. I mean, if you're winning and you have a loss, it's okay. You're still on top. You're still winning overall.
Exactly.
And I think that's the key.
I think so too. I think that's an amazing place to end as well. So if people want to,
sorry, we took longer than
no.
Sorry, no apologies.
No, never. I always say it's the guests that go under that I worry about. it's the ones that go over is easy. Like I can do this.
I mean, I can do this another 2 hours.
Yeah, I could too. But that's what happens when I speak to neurodivergents, and then I'm like, shit, I need to put this in a podcast for people. But unlike you, I don't edit. So like this will go up, this will go on the podcast, and it's full for an 85-minute.
Well, then we got to end it. The only reason I edit is I don't think anyone with ADHD is going to listen to something that's longer than 45 minutes.
Maybe if they're in the car.
That's true. Exactly.
Hello. If you've got ADHD and you've made it to this part of the show, we want to hear from you.
Yeah. I mean, that should be a gift. If you make it to this point without a break, you get a gift. But Dave, it's been awesome. It's been great. Once again. Thoroughly enjoyed it. You look more upbeat now. I am. That gives it. You are. Fuck yeah. I'm an energy vampire. I've stolen. Actually, no. This is the thing: is I've not stolen your energy because I feel like it's just multiplied. Yeah. I am much more. This is why I said that I wouldn't have a problem with the mental health marathon. People were like, "Oh, you're gonna, this is gonna, and this is gonna get, and this." And I said, "Look, here's the thing: I get a new person to steal energy off every single hour." Right. That's very true. If it was another one of me coming in every single hour, and they were like, "Oh, fucking hell, you know what? I'm really knackered." Yeah. Like, you know what? Me too. In fact, actually, the very last hour was the hard one because it was with one of my best friends who I stream with from time to time, and he came and he's like, "How are you feeling?" And I'm like, "I'm feeling good," and then 5 seconds later, I'm like, actually, you know what? I'm feeling pretty wank. And we still had like an hour and 20 minutes to go. But I love it. But that was because I knew I could let my guard down with him. Whereas with all the rest of them, we didn't even have an interview. There was that last one. It was just I'd helped him get for his 30th birthday. He'd done a 30-hour stream, and I basically came on for the last 3 hours with him because he was really flagging. And I basically handled chat and picked him up. So I wanted him to do the same for me. So what were you? You were probably the firewood that he needed to keep his fire going. Yeah. Oh, big surprise. Tune into season 2. Amazing. Before you go, where's the best place for people to find out more about you and maybe even find the podcast? Go to Twitter. It's at Lobow S.P.A.R.K on Twitter, but buzzsprout.com is my hosting podcast thing, but you can find it on Apple Podcasts. And please do the Apple Podcasts because my numbers on Buzzsprout are good. My numbers on Apple is but it doesn't matter. I don't care about that numbers right now. Just go listen and just take a chance on being motivated. Just a chance. If it doesn't motivate you, it doesn't motivate you. Why would you be lost? Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much.